I'm delighted to welcome Joe Cheal this morning to the presenter's hot seat. Welcome, Joe, and thank you for joining us. You are presenting at the NLP conference this year, and your topic is, what do you need? New models of leadership, which is already very intriguing. So to start off with, Joe, do please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your presentation.
Okie dokie. Well, in the context of the presentation, who am I? So yes, I am Joe Cheal. You've already said that with Imaginarium. And for the last 30 years, I've been working with organizations. And I would say that is my passion. Originally trained up with in NLP, etc., but actually as a psychotherapist. And that wasn't rewarding after a while. It was kind of like interesting and curious and, oh, people, and aren't they interesting? And then after a little while, it was like, okay, I'm honestly, I'm a bit bored with this now. Which is awful, isn't it, to admit on a recorded
It's
thing.
honest and
However,
authentic.
but working with organizations, I think was more kind of challenging, because then you've got not just one individual and their issues, you've got like a whole bunch of people and their issues, and how that all comes together and manifests into something. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, there's resilience on the level of, as an individual within a system, how can I be more resilient? And I still love that side of it. However, it's then the leadership. And there's a phrase which Melody and I've used for years and years, which is that a team will become a reflection of its leader. A team will become a reflection of its leader, which is sometimes hard to hear, and it's not an absolute. It's a rule of thumb. It's not. It's a kind of a bit of a presupposition, if you like, but it's there will be exceptions to that. So therefore, I think it benefits any manager and or leader to begin to consider, what am I bringing to this? What's my side of this? So that's what I've been observing to some extent, and indirectly modeling over the last 30 years. And I think Robert Dilts used the term years ago, macro modeling as opposed to micro modeling. NLP is very micro modeling, but I'm interested in behavior and the interpersonal part of it, and then the system. Does that make sense? So it's the bigger picture element of what do people do, and then so a manager therefore giving feedback to somebody, and how they go about that, and then how does the other person react to that, and then how do they deal with the reactions to the other person, particularly when it comes to dealing with difficult situations. So you've got the giving feedback on performance or behavior if it's not up to standard. And so many managers and leaders struggle with that. Because I think it's, there's the fear of it being confrontational and where it might go, and it's a bit of an unknown quantity as to where that might go. So I think Richard Bandler said this years ago about actually what fascinates him, and I think fascinates me in a different context, is difficult situations.
Right.
I love the idea of awkward. I think, and again, this is a horrible stereotype. This is being British. I think the British have like this kind of weird love-hate relationship with the concept of awkward.
Yes.
We kind of love it because it's humorous, and afterwards we get to talk about it and put it on Facebook, and then we kind of have a big laugh. But at the time, we just don't know what to do with it. It was like, it's that wonderful. So yes, so that's what's fascinated me. And by the way, without giving away too much about the actual session, I have again a kind of like in my models, for me the whole thing about leader and manager. There's been books written about this for years, and academic articles, etc. I just go with a very simplistic, just to start with, a simplistic that we lead people, we manage resources.
Very good. Yes.
So people are resources, but when we're managing people, I kind of think that's more about, right, I need you to do that, and it's delegation, it's get that sorted out. I appreciate you're in the middle of that, but if you can get that sorted out, and then if you can work with them and get this project managed, whereas the leadership is the taking people with you, getting buy-in. It's the influencing aspect of it. It's the engaging the heart and mind of people. So we can be both. A manager is also being a leader, and a leader will also be a manager as well. That's my take on it. That's what I work from. So yes, and I will say, in terms of the who am I, because I get totally fascinated with people and how they interact with each other, I have the luxury, yeah, luxury will do, of running training courses. So therefore, not only do I get to go, oh, that's interesting the way that happened, and then get to test that out on training courses. And I don't mean necessarily through role plays and things. It's just, okay, look, get the group talking about, okay, look, here's a situation, what might you do? And then people actually talk about previous, oh, well, I had this once, or my manager had this, and da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And you begin to hear lots of stories, and then you see the patterns.
Yes. Yes.
That's modeling. That's my fascination with modeling.
Yeah.
The patterns that you begin to see. And then, of course, again, I've done it myself as a trainer, of sometimes going, well, what you could do is X, Y, Z. And someone goes, oh, no, I wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, okay, maybe I need to rethink that particular one. So
Yes.
it's forever tweaking the
Yeah.
models as we go through. Yeah, so one more thing, an example of a modeling project, which links to an article that I think was recently in Rapport, and then there's a part 2 coming soon, which is about the sitting down, having a difficult conversation with someone about performance and behavior. And I actually observed hours and hours of what were called pre-disciplinary one-to-ones. Back this was about 20 years ago or so, and it was with a view to what are the effective managers doing, and then the ineffective, or when they're being effective, and
Yeah.
etc. And there was a whole bunch of different things, but there was definitely a structure of when a good conversation happens. So that's a model. I think that was in the previous article.
Yeah.
But the big bit was not just, okay, I'm a manager, I'm having a conversation, and I need to take this kind of journey to get you to agree to improving, or whatever it may be. But what would happen? The individual, of course, is potentially get defensive.
Yes. Yes.
So then they go, oh no, I didn't. Oh no, it wasn't my intent. Oh no, it wasn't my fault. Oh, it was, oh, you're picking on me. There's all these different defenses that come out. And for the individual, they can be very real. It's not that they're making it up or playing the card of whatever. And it can be genuine feelings. They might get angry, they might get upset, they might cry, all these different things that the manager's now going, oh, hell's bells, I wasn't expecting this. And it felt like they were kind of playing chess, but instead of being opposite each other, it was like the manager sat here trying to get, kind of to that side of the table, but the other person was sat sideways to them, trying to push all the pieces off the table while the conversation was going on. So therefore, it wasn't just about here's a structure for having a conversation, which is not, which you can kind of adapt and do what you like with, but it's then how do you deal with all these different things that people will throw into the conversation. So that all of that stuff fascinates me.
Yes.
There you go.
I've got the phrase going through my head. Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yes. Yeah. Which if you're in a difficult, if a person is in a difficult situation anyway, and it's like, oh, we tend to feel at that point perhaps a little under-resourced in ideas and strategies, and hence if the person throws something back and we weren't expecting it, it kind of, again, strategies go out the window at that point. So it's like, okay, well, get your strategies in beforehand. Prepare,
exactly. So Joe, what will delegates take away from your session?
Okay, I hope that they will take away a sense of lightness and humor, that there is it was worth watching, just because it's like, oh, that was, that kind of, it lifts. That I know is not the tangible benefit you're necessarily looking for. What is it in terms of the tangible? I think anybody who is in the position of being a manager or a leader, or the both, definitely a set of strategies, but some models that are practical, pragmatic, real world, something you can kind of go, oh yeah, I can see how that worked or that didn't work in that particular situation. So people can retrospectively look back on situations, but also when they're in the situation, that there's that can add to add to their strategy. I keep using the word strategies, but they can add to their strategies for how do I deal with this situation? How do I deal with difficult situations? What about when there's crisis? The pandemic hit and we had this crisis point and people didn't know what was going on and it was all very uncertain, and it was like, oh, what are we doing? And some of the good leaders did particular things, and some of the poor leaders did particular things, and just put people off. It's just like, well, if you don't, what now? What, just created more confusion and tensions and uncertainty, etc. times of change. So
Yeah.
all of these situations, these are contexts in which I would hope that people would take away some ideas of how to deal, a little bit better about change, and that leadership, of course, is a nominalization. So let's turn it back to a process. Leadership is a dynamic thing.
Right.
So that we can analyze it, we can look at it and kind of go, okay, well, it's good to spend some time doing this approach to leadership and that approach and this approach, which is good for flexibility. So they'll develop flexibility if they implement. Here we go. I'm giving you the benefits as we go. But also there's a dynamic nature to this, as almost like as a manager, as a leader or a manager, where do I need to be right now with regards to the team or with regards to this individual? And there is a logic to it. But as I say, it's a very pragmatic thing. And it's something, having run this in courses for years and years and years now and tweaked it, it's one of the aha moments that I get on leadership courses, where people, when at the end of the course we go, what did you get from the course, what did you like? Inevitably what I'm going to be covering in the session is the thing that most people kind of go, yeah, that was the bit.
Right, brilliant, brilliant. Lovely seeds of curiosity thrown there. Thank you. So, Joe, is there anything that delegates can do before your session to give them a sort of a deeper understanding or prepare them for your session?
I think it's a thought process rather than, it could be a writing activity if you wish it to be. I think one of my favorite early version activities or in preparation is just to have a think about and even jot down the qualities, characteristics and behaviors of good leaders and managers that that person's had in the past, and the bad ones as well. Okay, it's quite a therapeutic thing. Not a list of names.
I was going to say
it's not a list of names. It's a list of characteristics, qualities, behaviors. What made the good ones good and the bad ones bad? And then underneath that, underneath each list, you can then kind of go, what were my reactions to the good manager and the bad manager? What characteristics, behaviors, etc., did that bring out in me?
Right.
So that's quite a nice one. And I think just observing oneself, what are some of the challenges if someone is in a leadership role, or even wanting to step up to that. I'd really love the idea that anybody can come on, can attend the session and get something from it, but actually it could be aspiring managers, leaders. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be, it's not only for leaders and managers. It can actually be for anybody, but with a view to, okay, that will help me to develop my thinking. So yeah, I think if you're going to do some pre-work, then either looking at other managers and leaders, what do they do that works well, that works less well, but also oneself. What challenges do I face and what do I find sticky, difficult?
Yeah, brilliant. The names immediately sprang to mind. So it's sort of taking that and well, what are they doing, or what is the behaviour that,
exactly.
that is not the person, the behaviour. So that's a really good exercise. Thank you, Joe. We've known each other for many, many years, and we've met at many, many conferences, both virtual and in person. So what does the NLP International Conference mean to you?
I think for me, with this version, the online version, I think, what does it mean to me? It means being able to reach out, to connect with people across the world, actually. I think that's one of the things I love about this part of it. And to share, honestly, for me, to share ideas, that's very egotistical of me, but to share the models and ideas and things that I've developed and love, and I'm very passionate about. And I think the meeting in person, I just adore, because I'm seeing people that I haven't seen for a while. It's just as selfish as that. I adore that walking into a room, and maybe there's like 200 people in a room, and possibly, I don't know, there's 25, 30, 40, 50 people that I know. And I just love that feeling of walking into a really crowded room and going, hey, how are you all? Like, what's going on?
It's Joe!
Yeah, that's right. Ta-da! So I think, obviously there's the bigger picture of it, that it helps to maintain and sustain the momentum of NLP across the world as well. And I think, that's an interesting one in terms of it. How is that shifting and changing? But I've always said, Karen, that for me, ever since you began working, began your part of the ANLP, what you developed, was that I feel like you hold a space for the community. And I love that. It's so important because it's of course you've got to run a business. Of course, there's all those things, but it's always felt like it's relatively, compared to any other association I know, relatively agenda free. It's a space of like, come together. Look, we're organising this. Come together, share stuff, be brilliant. And I think that's something that I find exciting as well. That space to come together and be brilliant. Not just me. I'm not talking about just me there, but for everyone to shine in some way, shape, or form and share ideas. There you go.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Joe. As I've mentioned, Joe Cheal is presenting at the NLP International Conference, and you are presenting virtually this year in our second weekend on Saturday the 20th of May at a fairly reasonable hour, 11 o'clock BST, British Summer Time. So for somebody out there it might not be so reasonable time, but for most of us we'll be there to enjoy your session on what do you need, new models of leadership. So thank you so much, Joe, for taking time to explain more about that today. I'm really looking forward to your session in May.